there it goes.
As you may have noticed from the past couple videos I've posted recently, I decided to and ended up selling the Maverick Camper. This may come as a surprise, but ultimately I decided to sell the camper because I learned so many things from this first version of the Maverick Camper, and it's getting closer to when I should be getting the Ford Maverick here soon, and then I'll be able to make a second version. From this first build, I was able to learn a lot of things and see the way I would do things differently on a second version. I have a long list of just incremental, tiny improvements and other changes, other design changes that I would do to make the Maverick Camper more adaptable to my needs and just make it better overall. In case you're wondering, that's why I sold it, and you can look forward down the road to another build coming up. Since it sold, you're probably wondering, well, Scott, how much did it cost? And how much did you sell it for? I tracked all the receipts that I could remember and my purchases on Amazon and online and whatnot, and I put everything on an Excel spreadsheet. And so I'll go over that with you now in the spreadsheet. So this is the spreadsheet that I built on the Maverick Camper. And to my knowledge, this is at least 95% correct with all the purchases that I made and whatnot. So at Home Depot, there were 11 purchases between March 11th and June 7th of 2022. And I bought plywood, screws, hardware, 2x3s, paint, door stops, hinges, doorknob, more paint, different colors of paint, polyurethane. Most of the raw materials are from Home Depot here. And this is how much I spent for each purchase, totaling $1,120.37. And kind of interesting, I found out it took 14 sheets of 3/8 inch plywood and 24 2x3s. So that's kind of interesting. And then of course, in the mix too, I did use some 5/8 and 3/4 inch plywood as well. Then moving to the Amazon purchases, there were 15 purchases on these dates, and these were the items. I spent $1,096.49 at Amazon for AC, window, vents, DC panel, battery, fan switch, etc. This includes the battery, which was $430, which was a larger purchase of the bunch. And then these ones down here have a story behind them. So the 2000 watt inverter, I spent $245 on, but I bought it like a year or two prior, and I used it in another camper I built, and I sold the camper but kept the inverter. So I mean, it cost me $245 at the time, but I didn't actually spend extra money on it to build the camper, if that makes sense. And then the fridge on Amazon costs $365 roughly. However, I was given the fridge for free, so that also kind of affects my situation. But if you are looking at how much it would cost you to just go buy everything that I bought, this is what you can expect to spend. Same for the microwave. I had bought it a year or two prior. The toaster oven was given to me for free. The solar panel, I used it on another trailer and sold it but kept the panel. And then miscellaneous, I know I used some wiring and some other connectors and miscellaneous items that I've bought in bulk but just picked from my own collection to use in the camper. So a grand total for all three from Home Depot, Amazon, and other purchases, the camper cost comes to $3,116.86. That is interesting. This price can very easily be changed. It's important to see that the camper itself cost about $1,120. And this is when I was buying wood at a pretty expensive price. I don't remember specifically how much it was per sheet, but I want to say like the 3/8 inch sanded plywood, I think I paid right around $40 a sheet. And now, in fact, just a couple weeks ago, I picked up a whole bunch of 3/8 inch plywood, not the sanded, and I paid like $15 a sheet, so that's dramatically cheaper. And then other things like the AC, you can go without the AC. I'd say the lights are necessary, and like these vent fans, I'm not going to do that again. There's a lot of purchases here that can be changed. But the bottom line is if you want to go build the camper frame itself and then outfit it with your own personal gear, you can build the camper a lot cheaper that way. You know, you could probably build just the bare frame with today's wood prices between $600 and $1,000, and so that's very affordable, very, very, very cheap. Based on the things that I had and chose for this camper, it's cost roughly around $3,100. And I find that interesting that it's cost that much. It's just good information to know and to realize that it can be made cheaper as well, or more expensive, whichever way you want to go. Then also something else to note, I also added in here how many days it took me to build. So these were actual building days between May 6th and June 7th of 2022. And this is when I was loading gear into the camper, and the first camp out I went on was June 17th of 2022. So some cool specs to know. Now we know how much the camper actually cost me price-wise to build it. You might be wondering, how much is the camper worth? Because that's a dollar figure of the actual material cost to build it. That doesn't include any of my labor. And so that's definitely a tricky one to figure out how much it's worth. It really just comes down to how much the market is willing to pay for the camper. But me personally, my thoughts on it, I don't know. Yeah, for me and what I think it's worth, it took roughly 18 days to build it myself. Several long work days building it, and more than just the time building it, I spent tons of time planning and designing it on graph paper, thinking through how the design will work in real life, and then thinking about the design in the middle of building to see if I should put a shelf here or there or up or down. Kind of what I'm thinking is I would say it's probably worth about double whatever the material cost is. And so if that's right around $3,100, then it's probably worth around $6,000 roughly. But then it's up to the market, and the question is if someone is willing to pay that much for the camper. And just to give you a little history on the previous campers that I've built and sold, I've now sold 4 truck campers, 1 toy hauler camper, and 2 enclosed trailers. So that's about 7 camper trailers that I've sold. And kind of what I've noticed from each one is that it takes roughly 3 to 6 months to find the right person interested in the camper. Every time I list one on the marketplace, the ad gets a couple thousand views, and there's like 30 to 50 favorites. And so a lot of people see the ad and they're really interested. They think it's cool, and some of them might just be saving it for their own ideas or their own inspiration. But then it takes time to find the right person who actually wants to come and purchase the camper. And kind of what I found is that it doesn't seem to be so much about the price, though it is, but it's really just the right person who's wanting to buy it and that it's actually going to fit their needs. Because the campers and trailers that I've built in the past, they are custom designs, so it has to fit their needs. So after all that being said, what I did is, I think back in, I'm not 100% positive, but I want to say in September, I listed the camper for $6,000. And then a couple months went by and not many people reached out, though the ad was getting a lot of views and a lot of people were favoriting the ad. I think in November or somewhere along the line, I lowered the camper to $5,000. And then a little bit later, I lowered it to $4,000. And then a little bit later, I dropped it to $3,000. And that's when someone came along to actually buy it. Granted, one thing to keep in mind as well is it is winter time. Probably not a lot of people are looking to purchase campers towards the end of the season. Whereas if I had listed it in the spring of next year, it probably would have sold a lot faster. And that's okay, because I wasn't in a rush to sell the camper. In fact, I was thinking it would be kind of nice to have the camper around so I could reference the camper as I build the second version. So I wasn't really in a rush to sell it. So once I had it at $3,000, I don't quite remember how much time passed before someone reached out. They were really excited about it. They had to get their truck ready, and then they came down and bought the camper. And they didn't try to talk me down on the price. They just paid me the $3,000 for the camper. And I also sold them the 2 tripod jacks for an extra $225. So then they would have the ability to pick it up and off their truck. It worked out very well. And there was one other couple that did come a couple weeks beforehand to look at it. There were actually a few people that reached out to me asking about the camper and asking about heating it because they wanted to use it to go skiing and snowboarding. They wanted a camper to be able to take to the ski resorts. Kind of what I found is that the sweet spot seems to be right around $3,000. Anyway, so that's enough about the Maverick Camper. Just a quick recap of everything. I started building the camper in May. I'm pretty sure I finished it in June. We were able to use it for most of the season. And then I decided to sell it October, November, December. So it took roughly 3 months for the camper to sell, in which it sold for $3,000 in December, which is roughly what the camper cost me to build. Just kind of some interesting things about selling the camper. Yeah, so I hope that was helpful. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one.